Hey, Laurie.
Yeah.
All right, we are live. Lori, to you, Christy Cadis in the house. Very excited today. Today we're going to call this episode Addition by Subtraction. I think that's going to be the name of this episode.
Okay.
Well, come on now. Come on.
Mute yourselves.
Oop.
We are the youth. All right. Little silver chair right there. That is a throwback. Throwback, gentlemen. Throw it back. Andy, you familiar with that?
No, I'm not. No. Who? Nickelback? Silverchair? What was it? Who?
What?
Who was it?
Please. Whoa. Please do not ever do that. Nickelback. That is a bunch of garbage right there. All right. You want to go around, starting with Andy, then Nick, and talking to do a little introduction.
All right, guys. So back for episode 4. You'll notice, keen viewers, I've worn a different jersey every week. So this week I got a retro Scotland rugby jersey showing my roots, my genealogy. Still the same Andy Milne from London, England, but out here in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I'm excited to be here. I believe we're talking about podcasts today. Next, Nick, perhaps.
I am up, and I will unmute myself. Even though I was trying to talk a little bit earlier, Justin, I was trying to tell you, and I was muted, of course, that Andy was able to scan my Voxer T-shirt while you were gone. So we
No way.
Yeah. So I had to get nice and close though, but he was able to scan it and open it. So
That's a
I don't think your Springfield's going to scan, but all right. So introductions: Nick Emlich, K-6 health and phys ed teacher, Dover Elementary in York, Pennsylvania. So we're ready to rock and roll tonight.
All right, and I am Justin Schleider. I am preschool to 6th grade, physical education, department chair, health teacher, health department chair, co-technology teacher. And again, for all those of you out there who do not know, I am a department of 1. So I can pretty much say that I'm the chair of whatever I'm doing at the present moment. All right, so today we're going to start something new. All right, so you see the slides, slides. That's they open the new tab, okay, because I can't see it. So we're going to have to walk through this together. You know, you guys text me down there, tell me how it is. This week, and we do have Carla Jefferson in here, which is really cool because she is one of my podcasts. So this week, Adam Laveau is not with us. Feel better? Raise my glass of water to him. And we are off and running. Umbro's sponsored. Oh my God, I haven't heard Umbro since
Middle school,
1992.
elementary school.
Next week, I'll wear an Umbro jersey just for the old school boys.
I was gonna say the only U.S. jerseys you're gonna wear are like right now LeBron and Steph Curry jerseys.
All right, so let's start out with my first podcast, which I am in love with. Absolutely awesome. And the name of the podcast is called Ed History 101 with Jen Binnis. Now, Jen, in her podcast, I reworded it a little bit, but it says Jen was a good student. Her patient husband wasn't. I believe his name is Paul. Each week, she attempts to explain the history and thinking behind the things that he hated in school. So it's about the history of education, and you would think that this is a really dry. You think it's really dry and boring. Yet she sits there and laughs the whole time. and he just sits there and hates on school and says what a joke it was. But it's really funny. I don't know how they do it, but her laugh is contagious, infectious, whatever, and it really is good. They have 6 episodes out. I've not listened to number 6 yet. The one I like the best out of all of them was the history of the school bell, which I thought was really, really cool. And she goes on to say that schools were not like factories. We always hear that, oh, schools were based on factories. That's why we have seatings and we are putting out these standardized children and blah, blah, blah. And she debunks that whole theory. So schools are definitely not that. So that is my first one. And Nick and Andy are saying that nobody out there can see this. It says Clink to open. So I'll click it and then tell me, does anyone see this on there?
No, I think what's happening is they need to open it themselves in a new tab.
All right, so there's no way for me to get that to show anyone. Mm-hmm. Now, if I click that on the bottom, does that do anything? Can anyone see this out there?
It's not popping up on mine either.
All right, well, we'll just go with it, and I'll put the link out there as well, and we will go.
Hey, Justin, yes. I like the sound of that podcast. I like history. I studied history in high school. I used to teach the history of sports to 17 and 18-year-olds in England. You can do something like you can do an academic version of phys ed back home in England. So I did teach sports history and found it fascinating.
Nice. And again, if you make it not dry, then you bring up a couple cool facts, getting some engagement going on. It can be cool. And I always wondered when people said they hated history or they hated social studies, that I was like, but it's stories. How can you hate stories? I mean, history is great people, and this is no different. She highlights Horace Mann. She talks about Dewey. She talks about the beginning of education, and then all throughout. And it's just a very, very interesting podcast. It's 20 minutes, which is right up my alley. I don't want it too long, so it's really, really cool. I enjoy that. It's called the history of Ed History. Now the next one over here, and this is Carla. Let's see if Carla's still up here. Oh, yeah, she is. Carla, do you want to call in by any chance? Let's see if we can get Carla to call in, because if she does, this will be really cool. I would love her to talk about it. But she, and let me put this first. I don't know how much I trust her school system, only because they employ Jimmy Wright. So if you have Jimmy Wright in your school system, how solid of a school system can you really have? But anyway, we'll let that slide. And
he doesn't take up too much space.
No.
You think
He's very compact. Yeah, right.
They probably saved some money over there. Anyway, so Carla, please call in up. Call in. Yes, Carla's calling in. Accept. Here we go. Carla Jefferson. Carla, you're
Hey, Carla.
So please,
welcome up.
Tell us first some dirt on Jimmy. What does he do that we should know about? Let's dig at him a little bit.
Absolutely amazing. Jimmy's absolutely amazing.
All right, so then tell me a little bit about your podcast. What's the name of it? Where did it come from? Give me a little history here.
Okay, so the name of our podcast is called DCSD Transforms. Red Hughes is a coworker, peer, buddy of mine, and so this year our board approved a $2.7 yearly $1 million commitment to put devices in the hands of all of our students. And so he had studied Every Child Every Day that talks about Mooresville, North Carolina, and they call their change, they had their one-to-one, and they call theirs a digital conversion. And so we talked about how we wanted ours to be a little deeper than that. We wanted to transform our classrooms in our district. So that's where the hashtag DCSD Transforms comes from, Darlington County School District. And so we had our very first digital transformation conference in October. And after that, Rhett and I had been talking for a couple of months saying we should do a podcast. And so after the conference, we said, let's do a podcast. So when I tell you that we had no idea what we were doing, when we laughingly say in the studio is usually either conference room 1 or conference room 6 in our district office. And we just put it together right there and let it fly. We use GarageBand to for the audio and kind of just piece it together that way. And so what we do is kind of highlight teachers and neat things that are going on in our district, and then like tools and apps that will be beneficial for teachers everywhere. So it's kind of a way to share what we're doing in our district with teachers all over.
Now you take a little liberties there, saying it's the best 10 minutes. Have any of your episodes actually been 10 minutes?
Not a one.
Well, it's kind of like ours being 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Usually, I say the best 10 minutes times 2, sometimes 3. I think last week might have been times 4.
Nice. No, you and Ray have a real good thing going on. You're funny. I like how you highlight what teachers are doing in your school district, which is huge. I mean, think about that. Have any of your districts done that? Done anything like a podcast to highlight what's going on in your classroom? Nick, Andy?
No,
not really. No, I mean, it is individual teachers podcasting, but the idea of coming together and highlighting for the whole district. Carla, what devices do you guys have, and how have the kids found having devices in their hands?
We are doing Apple devices. So our 9 to 12, we are MacBook Airs.
Nice.
And then K-8, we are iPads. And so we are like actually in probably 1.5 of that. So in our high schools, out of our 4 high schools, 3 grade levels have the Macs, and then next year they will be totally 1-to-1. In August, we'll be at a 2-to-1 implementation as far as iPads are concerned, K-8, but we started a flip about, this is year 3, where some schools and some classrooms have already been 1-to-1. So we have one middle school that is totally 1-to-1 with iPads. And then with what we're putting in August, we actually will have some other schools that, because of what they already had and what principals purchased, will be totally 1-to-1 with iPads. Nice. So I tell you, I'm blown away every day about what teachers are able to do with the devices and what students are able to do. And of course, someone talked about the infrastructure. We're on phase 3 of redoing our infrastructure to make sure that it will be able to accommodate all of these devices. And I'm an instructional technology coordinator. So the network administrators who are awesome, they throw words around like switches and fiber. I have no idea what they're talking about, but those bandwidth, are the things that
bandwidth. They'll throw bandwidth at you all day long. There's not enough bandwidth to stream anything.
There's never enough bandwidth, exactly. To make sure that that the device, we have access hub, access point in each of our classrooms currently, to make sure that they can, and we had to update those 2 years ago because the access points that we had previously were great for like laptops wireless, but not for iPads. So it's definitely a learning process, but like I said, what kids are able to do and create, that's been, our focus and our goal. And so we constantly talk about the 4 C's, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity, and everything that, is that everything our students do evolve around the 4 C's.
Now, Carla, somebody wants to know, where did the funding come from?
Well, actually, the initial funding came from, to be honest, our board and our superintendent have been extremely frugal in the past. So some of that came from fund balance money. But for our board to make this decision, knowing that there may be an increase, a millage increase for some of our taxpayers, I thought that was a very bold move, knowing that they are elected officials, but they are definitely determined to make sure that this happens. And every month during our board sessions, we kind of present a lot of the things that we share in the podcast. Teachers come and they share work that their students are doing, in very short 2 to 3 minutes. But after that, we have 10 to 15 minutes of conversation from our board members asking questions about what students are doing. They ask about, will this eliminate? Now, we're in the South, so we don't really have snow days. We have like wind and ice days. But, will this eliminate the need for snow days and long-term subs? And can we continue to provide instruction for students in difficult situations? And that has definitely been amazing for me to hear. And I'm just so in awe of their forward thinkingness, know that most of them are not educators, but they are extremely determined to provide the best education possible and put us, right on the edge of, creating students who we can no longer teach children what to think. We have to teach them how to think. And so these devices are just a tool in order for us to allow them to be able to do that.
All right, so Carla, I know one of the big things is we are pushing one-to-one. Next year, we're going to be one-to-one with different types of devices, 4th through 12th grade, and close to even one-to-one K to 3rd grade. We'll have carts in most of those classes. But my biggest concern a lot is we don't provide enough professional development for our teachers. And the technology then, although it's great, it's awesome, but if they don't know how to use it properly, it's really just a glorified whiteboard, projector, all that sort of stuff. So what does your district do? And obviously you, in your position, what do you do to make sure that teachers are using that effectively?
I laughing say that I'm currently an instructional team of one. I am the coordinator, kind of like what Justin says, is just me. And we don't currently have anyone in school. We don't have specialists or facilitators in the school. One of the things, and this is my first year in this job, I taught middle school for 17 years before this, 17, 18 years. It gets kind of blurry. But one of the things that we initiated is the train the trainers model. So I have what we call the Digital Transformation Academy, and those just go-getter teachers. We meet once a month. We talk about digital tools. I give them time to just kind of explore some things because when you're in the classroom, you may hear about a new tool, but you're bogged down in just the basics of teaching children, and sometimes you don't have time to do the experimenting. So we do that in the academy, and then they design lessons and professional development that they then take back to their schools. Like I said, we start first, which is what actually launched the podcast that we had, that will be the thing now. And then like this summer, we have 75 professional development sessions available to teachers. Our district has decided that the 3 tools that we want to focus on: Schoology, because that's the learning management system that we purchased, Google, and Mac and Apple products, because we spend a lot of money purchasing. You buy a $1,200 computer, you hope that the teacher who has it knows how to use it. So in turn, that the students who have them know how to use it. And so just
No.
And Carla ends your session.
Bandwidth.
She should have listened. She should have listened. Jimmy, you're out there. Do you want to call in? Do you want to step up right now and say, hey, I'm in the district. I'm reaping the benefits of all the hard work that Carla's doing. But in Jimmy's defense, some of it might go over his head.
So does most things. He's tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a hard one.
Ouch. Yeah, but he's got his Ohio State hat on, so that's an extra inch or two.
Yes, Chris, we are hard on Jimmy, and yes, Jimmy, every blow's a low blow on you. So again, that is DSCD Transforms. Carla Jefferson,
That
awesome lady. It stinks that her computer locked up, but I would highly recommend you check it out. There again, another podcast. I kid her. She said it's the best 10 minutes. They're usually around 20, 15 or 20.
Oh, she's back.
And right in the wheelhouse. So the last podcast for myself, and again, I stole this away from everyone else, is the PE Geek podcast. Now, for those of you out here right now, it's the DCSD podcast. DCSD Transforms for Miss Lee, Creative Ed Tech. Yes, thank you over there, Miss Jefferson. So, getting back to my third podcast, and this is the PE Geek. That's his podcast. Now, a lot of you are going to be saying, I'm not a phys ed teacher. I'm not a PE geek. Why do I need to listen? And I'm going to tell you that first, it's just based on tech. A lot of it's tech. Jared Robinson out of Australia, who's a great friend of the show, the great friend of any educator who wants to incorporate technology. The dude is awesome. You hit him up. He will help you out with anything that he knows, which is a ton. So lots of love for Jared Robinson out there. So now that I sound like Andy Milne on his podcast, I want you specifically to notice these two. Episodes 54 and 56. You could skip episode 55. Complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. You don't want to hear some dude with a British accent living in America. Don't worry about episode 55. But episode 54 and 56 specifically, and that just happened to be really funny. I didn't mean it to come out that way. But those are the two, to me, that are the best episodes for all of education. If you're a phys ed teacher, you can listen to Andy. It's fine, whatever. If you're a regular education teacher and you want to learn about tech, all of these have some tech in there. But episode 56, I'm going to read the show notes, what he says. He says, we explore the power of automation, how we can use it to leverage our time. So automation plays a big part in helping him managing over 200 emails a day, social media accounts, blah, blah, blah. He talks about RSS feeds, Feedly, Flipboard follows up, Boomerang, Unroll.me, which was one of our tech tips from Adam Laveau, Active Inbox Workflows, and IFT, IFTT, which I think is something different now. But anyway, so that's just episode 54, which is an absolute home run. I love that. It saves so much. Anything we want to talk about 54 before I go on to the next one to 56? Anything about Unroll Me?
I think IFTT is just if now. I think they just shortened it to if you look it up.
Now I have a question for you, and this is going right off the cuff. I want to retweet something. Let's say that I want to retweet something that Nicholas Enlick puts out. Every time he tweets, I want to retweet his tweet. Can I do that using if? I'm sure there's a reason.
First, why? I mean, of all people, why? But I know this is the hypothetical. I bet you could, because you can write your own recipe there.
I was writing a recipe today, and I couldn't figure out the last part. And I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing, so you all can know. I'm on the board for the New Jersey AFER.
What's your if part?
And my if is every time Shape America tweets something, I want the New Jersey AFER account to retweet that to our members with the hashtag New Jersey AFER. Makes sense, right?
Okay.
So that's what I want to do. So if anyone can help me out there, do that. Yes, he's teacher of the year, teacher of the century. Lori, it's way too late. This lady, she's seeing things.
Yeah, Lori's a little delusional here on Andy, but that's all right.
So if anyone can help
Lori.
Hit me up on the side before we keep getting back to Andy over there. All right, now episode 56. Now this is another great episode because in here he shares ways in which you can utilize outsourcing to leverage your greatest asset, which, as you know, if you've ever watched the end of this blab, is time. So he talks about it. He's using Fiverr.com. He talks about online experts, talks about different ways we can get other people to do our work for us. So again, highly recommend the PE Geek, period. But if you want to concentrate on two episodes, two of my favorites, definitely 54, 56. If you want to be engaged by a witty Hugh Grant-like fella, 55 is a good one. I'm not going to lie, 55 was good. I was engaged. But if you really want things that'll change your life, and I'm not saying this lightly at all, things that are going to make your life better and easier, 54 and 56 are the way to go. All
right. So, Justin.
Yes.
I just real quick brought up If, and one of the ones, and I'm not sure if this is what will work for you or not, but one of the ones that's already pre-programmed by them is retweets text of new tweets by the specific user of your choice.
Cool. Can you send that to me? That link? Do I have to look that up? Can you do the work for me? Thanks. I appreciate that, big guy.
Yeah, I can share it to you.
Good. And then I'm going to get on the state Voxer group, and I will tell everyone that that's what I'm doing there. So why are we giving props to people? If they do or say something, Carrie, that you think is worth a prop, yeah, Christy Kate right there. She just thinks Andy's handsome. Christy K's married. He's taken. I know he's yeah. Oh yeah.
Now you gotta get the double.
Anyway, so yeah, so that was.
You should have gotten.
That was funny. Boom! I give him a little love. So that's what.
All right, let's move on now. All right, let's move on. Is it my turn to speak now?
Yes,
it is. Finally.
Thank you. So next up on the podcast, I am going to recommend the fundamental movements. Now, as this is a new entrance to the podcast medium, and I know that those guys hate the whole idea of backslapping. It's put together by Dean Dudley, Andy Vasquez on there, Nathan Horn, Joey Fight drops in every now and again. Aaron Beagley's in there as well, and they've just pushed out 5 really good episodes. It's very thought-provoking. Most of these guys are particularly academic. 1 or 2 of them actually teach in a classroom, but they're great in that they get a conversation going, and they're very good question askers. They pose good questions, and they drill deep into some just simple questions that us as PE teachers should consider. The first episode was, what's the role of PE? And we go to work every day and we do what we do and to the best of our abilities, but do we ever stop and think what's the function of, what it is that we do? They've looked at the purpose of fun in the classroom, and episode 5, which I'm halfway through right now, is looking at, what are the essential things you need to have if you want to have a successful PE class. Dean Dudley's great. Dean Dudley on Twitter is restricted by 140 characters. I bumped into him at Shape Minneapolis, and it was pretty awesome. In fact, there's a great selfie of me and Jorge, so 2 of my podcasting idols together, and an ugly Brit in the middle. So check that out. It does pose a question to me. How come it's people from the Commonwealth that seem to be telling the Yanks how to do their job? You've got a couple of Canadians. Amanda Stanek was in there. They've had Ted T, the Greek Adonis, in there. He's also Canadian. Andy Vasquez is Canadian. So is Joey. So, we will have to wonder about the influence of the Canadians. I mean, they gave us physical literacy as well, and that's a big talking point as well. Read Justin's blog. So that's the fundamental movement. Check that one out. What's next on my list, Justin? I don't have my slides up in front of me. Dave Zirin's Edge of Sports. This is one that I just stumbled across. His latest episode is an interview with Michael Sams. It's very thought-provoking. Dave's podcast.
Who's Michael Sams?
Michael Sams is the first openly gay footballer in the States. I know he tried out with the NFL. He talks about that. He talks about whether the timing of him coming out has affected his potential progress in the NFL. So that makes for a good discussion as well. His podcast is a collision of sports and social justice and politics. I'm excited to listen to the next one up on my listening list is Student Athletes versus Nike. The student athletes have a social advocacy group at Georgetown University, and they're looking at sweatshops involved in producing Nike merchandise. There's one on Jackie Robinson I want to check out. There's an interview with Navratilova. There's an interview with Kareem, and there's another episode on concussion that I want to read. So I've got 7 or 8 Dave Zirin's lined up in my to listen. I have an hour or 70-minute commute in the morning and 70 minutes back. So I flit around and listen to a ton of podcasts.
Yeah, the Kareem one's going to be really good. He is really outspoken. I like.
Yeah, and then my third one, perhaps a bit of a of a wild card. I'm recommending the Peach and Black podcast. As you know, I'm a big Prince fan, wherever he may be, and I have probably all 39 of his studio albums, plus all the bootlegs and concert footage, etc. So the Peach and Black podcast has been around since the late 2000s. It's 4 Australian guys. They're big fans of Prince, and over time, they actually went back and they reviewed every track on every album that Prince released. Now, to allow me to, as a cathartic listening experience, I'm listening to Prince's CDs in chronological order, and then I'm listening to the associated podcast, listening to every track review, and then I put that CD away, and then I move on to the next one, and it's helping me process Prince's death.
Thank God we got over that. All right, next, let's mute him. Mr. Enlick, what do you have for us? And by the way, Chris said you're why we can't listen to Prince on Apple Music. Nice.
All right, so I don't have a 70-minute commute to work. Mine's like less than 5, so I don't have that car ride to listen to podcasts, considering I have probably 2 screaming kids back with me because I take my kids to school with me. So I don't have as much time as I like, but the first one is going to be totally off track a bit. Now, this summer in July, myself, Eric Meyer, and Nick Spencer are all doing the Spartan race in Palmerton, Pennsylvania. So Nick's flying out here. So we're going to go and do that. So me being like, well, what in the world am I going to do? Nick was telling me about this podcast, and it's called the Obstacle Dominator podcast. So basically 2 guys who are basically professionals in obstacle course racing go through, talk about training, nutrition, everything like that. So that has been my big podcast of late. They're about 20 minutes or so. Some really interesting stuff, though, because a lot of the training and stuff like that is different than a lot of the other things that you would think about, because you have to combine both endurance with strength, which, usually people will train one or the other. But so it's a little different that way, but it's been great. It's given me a lot of information. So if anybody out there is into the obstacle course racing or interested in that, it's called Obstacle Dominator. They have a website, training tips, nutrition, all sorts of stuff. So that's probably been my hot one as of late. I try to sneak one in every day. So not really a education podcast, but definitely a good listen, and they're funny. They ride each other, give each other a hard time, so it's actually pretty entertaining as well. Second one on this list, I know this is horrible because everybody knows, and I'm probably preaching to the choir. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Tim Ferriss show. He's got amazing guests, just deconstructs and talks to some of the most amazing, influential people in all walks of life, whether it's business, sports, entertainment, and really just breaks down how great people are great and what they do and the commonalities. So if you haven't heard of it, haven't listened to it, definitely a great listen. And then the last one I'm going to throw in there, this is from Jared Robinson, also non-educational, but gets you into that moonshot thinking, is the Exponential Wisdom podcast. So Peter Diamandis and Dan Sullivan, basically just talking all sorts of crazy stuff that people are doing in the world, trying to make these advances, whether it's in technology, science, health, all sorts of crazy stuff. So that's another good one that I check into from time to time.
Yeah, really good ones. I mean, definitely Tim Ferriss is number one for any person. I don't care what you do, who you are.
Right.
If you want to get better in life, you want to listen to Tim Ferriss. So I 100% agree with that. Look at Jimmy. Anyway, so we are good. Hopefully, Mr. Rodriguez is here. Yes,
Nice.
he
Jorge calling
is.
in.
And our surprise guest to finish the show is if he stops blinking and just
Hey.
there he is.
And there he
So
is.
the man, the myth, the legend, known as Jorge Rodriguez, the better looking version of Antonio Banderas, or at least taller, is here. Can you tell us a little bit about the Voxcast? What is the Voxcast, and how do you keep your face frozen like that?
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm kind of not working here.
It's all right. We can hear you. That's all that matters.
We can hear you. We're good.
Probably better for the audience there. The Voxcast. Yeah, the Voxcast is a little podcast that we all do. I mean, it's all of us, right? We've all been on there. It's done on the Voxer platform, the social media platform, and we get guests from all over the world in physical education and education in general, and we just have a good time. And so, yeah, that's basically what we do.
Yeah, and Jorge is the mastermind behind that. We all help out, try to get our little bite at the apple, and ask a couple questions, try to sound intelligent, which probably fails miserably. And then he has the job of cutting the audio and trying to make us sound like we know what we're doing on there, and does a fantastic job. So wanted to give some love to the Voxcast out there. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, Jorge, I haven't had a chance to listen to the latest one about teaching overseas. Can you give us a little plug and tell us, what was the vibe from the overseas teachers?
The international teaching one I thought was really, really cool because I didn't know a lot of their stories and how they got into international teaching. But we have Andy Vasily on there. We have Mel Hamada on there. We have Lika on there. I mean, a bunch of Daniel Inman's on there. A bunch of really, really awesome educators from all over the world. And it's basically their story about how they got into international teaching, and they talk about how it's changed their lives and how it gives them a different perspective of the world and all kinds of just amazing stuff. So, if you haven't checked that one out, it's a really, really good one. It gives you a whole different perspective on the world. I mean, they talk about some of the things they've seen in these third world countries that they've worked in. They talk about the differences between, the culture that they're used to and the culture that they, kind of find themselves in. They even talk about some of the reverse culture shock of them coming back to their home country and finding out things have changed or people don't really, they kind of see that it's an eye-opening experience for them. They see the people who have been there for a long time. Adam Laveau is on there as well, and he gives some amazing stories about how he, went abroad and then came back and kind of realized that everybody is kind of, in the same place where he's been living this adventure, so it's a really interesting story.
Yeah, I have a good friend who went to college with me, and he now teaches in New Zealand. And he said he always feels like he's on vacation, even though he's working and he's been down there for at least 10 years and he has a family. He always feels like he's, in a new country and on vacation. So I know exactly where he comes from. So I look forward to listening to that podcast, and, it will resonate with me, obviously being a Brit overseas.
Yeah, it's really cool. I have to say, I was looking at your slide and I was like, where's the Voxcast?
That's why we called you in. You're number 10.
That's why we called you in. One last thing. Can you tell Chris real quick about the equipment? What equipment to use? Now, our podcast is a little different because we use Voxer as our microphones. So that's going to be a little off compared to everyone else. But can you tell them how you do it?
Well, yeah, like you said, so we use Voxer to get everybody from wherever they are to jump in on the podcast, which is a really cool platform for it because you get a bunch of voices from everywhere. And then when I edit the show, I use GarageBand, and I have a little snowball mic, and that's what I use to basically edit the show. And, you could do a lot in GarageBand. You could do a lot of really cool edits. You could do a lot of really cool fades and add music and all that kind of good stuff. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah, Chris, and I would add as well, I was podcasting in a school that had zero technology, and all I had was my iPhone and a Mac. So I would just record an audio piece on my phone and then put it into GarageBand. If you're not a GarageBand user, you can use Audacity, which I understand is pretty similar. And then you can push it out. It's so simple nowadays. You can push it out on SoundCloud, which is what I sometimes use. Podomatic is another great one as well. And if you've never podcasted before and you kind of have the urge to do it, go ahead and do it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, as far as podcasting, if you hit up Chris Nessie, so he does House Ed Tech, he will walk you through anything you need when it comes to equipment. If you want to do a more traditional podcast, Jeff Bradbury, he will do the same thing. Now, these dudes want you spending money though. Like we're doing a podcast with like $40 budget, like wherever. They want you to buy the nice microphone and do the different stuff. But they also put out a high quality product and are somewhat trying to do it as a business, I believe. So hit either of those guys up. Like I said, Mr. Nessie, I think that's his Twitter name. Jeff Bradbury is, oh my God, how come I can't? It's like teachercast.net. There it is. So hit him up, teachercast on Twitter, and he will walk you through everything. So I want to say,
didn't we have Jeff? Didn't Jeff do a Voxcast?
Yeah, we did a whole Voxcast with him, so I'm sure we can.
So you can always check out the Voxcast with Jeff to get that information as well.
There you go. Why reinvent the wheel? So I want to say thank you to Jorge, and then watch this, Jorge. Tell me if this hurts. Boom! Kicked right out of here. Thanks to Jorge. Thanks to Carla for coming on. Both of you, really, really appreciate it. Makes the show so much better when other people are talking besides us, which is kind of ironic. Mr. Enlich, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. TED Talk this week. And I will just post a link in here in the live chat, and it's also, we'll post it in the show notes and stuff. If you're not aware of or have heard of Jane McGonigal, you definitely should. She had a great TED Talk. You can check them out on YouTube as well. She's all about using gaming. So she actually recovered from serious accident, illness by gamifying her life to basically get her back on her feet and out of bed and moving and stuff like that. And she does a lot of talks and stuff like that, and you can check her out. It's actually really, really neat. She goes really in depth with how gaming can actually improve your life and the connections you make with other people, the socialization that it creates, and you kind of become accountable because you bring other people into your game. They make you accountable for your actions and what you do. So it's pretty neat. I will. This is just one of them. I'll post the link in here, but she's got two big ones, two TED Talks on gamification that are pretty neat. So check it out if you're interested.
She's definitely an expert, huge social media presence. So if you hit her up, she's good. Mr. Milne, anything to add?
Well, yeah, I like to talk about my micro actions from the little book of you. Micro action 147 says, get a balanced breakfast. We've got finals coming up within the next 10 days. So I've already put some posters up around the school reminding students that dehydrated students perform worse than hydrated kids. Tired kids perform worse. Stressed kids perform worse. And so do hungry kids as well. So break your fast. Get yourself a breakfast. My breakfast of choice right now, 1 cup of oats, 1 cup of milk, soak it overnight, throw some fruit in the next morning. Boom, you are full until lunchtime.
Yeah, you know what I like to add? I started adding to my oatmeal is the blue agave. Nice. It's low glycemic, but it adds that sweetness instead of adding like brown sugar or anything like that. So yeah, love that. We have oatmeal almost every day here.
Nice.
All right. And for me, going back to my favorite news source, Upworthy.com. If you are tired of the news and hearing about Donald Trump constantly and rape and murder and pillaging and all that stuff and fires, you want to go to Upworthy. Real big on social justice, real big on news that actually matters. So yes, I love Upworthy.com. On here, Channing Tatum appears on the first ever nonverbal talk show. You have to see it. This lady asks some questions, writes it down. Andy, you have a question? You're muted, so yeah, I can't hear you. So
No. I was once on a game show in England, and I never spoke for the entire duration of the show. So I came across as some kind of weird mute with a weird limp. It was the funniest thing. And then we pre-recorded it, and they showed it during the vacation time. All the kids at school saw it. It was
nice.
brilliant. I'll
Is that
share
why
that
you had to
story
move
with you
to
one
the,
time.
is that why you had to move to the States?
Yeah, that's why he left.
One of many.
So anyway, if you get a chance, check out the Channing Tatum. The girl's nonverbal, lady's nonverbal. She's writing the questions down. He's talking to her. She's hitting on him during the interview. It's absolutely hilarious. It's a real feel-good story. So absolutely amazing that he would go out of his way and do something that's obviously he's not getting paid for. He's doing it because, this lady's podcast is going to be taken off. Talk show is going to take off now. Obviously, so really cool. And my last thought of the night is the same as it always is. I can't believe you people spend any amount of time with us. I don't know why, but I am very grateful. Time is the most important thing we have, the resource that we can never get enough of. So thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you spending any amount of time, even Jimmy Wright. So again, thank you. Anyone else?
Nah, not really. Thank
Yep,
you.
thanks again.
That's it, and that's all. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Hey, don't forget, Wednesday we're back on, right?
Nick, you're out of here. Wednesday night we'll be having a special physical educated versus physical literacy discussion. So we will have that going on Wednesday night. I will tweet it out, put it in all the groups. Aaron Beagley is going to be on. Nick will be here. Adam Laveau will not, but that's going to be a really, really good one for my phys ed people to debate the difference between physically educated, physically literate, and then look at what's going on, the changes. So thank you, Nick, for half reminding us before you got booted. Andy, hold on to your seat. Oh, there it is. And I am out. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.